Hello, everyone, and welcome to this explainer. If you're a parent who's ever felt frustrated or maybe a bit anxious about the rigid, one-size-fits-all nature of traditional schooling, you are absolutely going to want to pay close attention today. We're looking at a completely functional, highly personalized alternative called the Open PMC Protocol. Think of this like an educational operating system for the AI age. Basically, it's an open design specification for small, mentor-guided learning cohorts. It's literally a blueprint for parents actively seeking alternatives to the conventional classroom, and we are going to break down exactly how it works. Okay, let's dive right into this. The absolute core design principle, really the motto of the entire Open PMC protocol, is that learning begins with a question and a project. And hey, this isn't just some catchy slogan, right? It's an actual structural requirement. It directly pushes back against that passive reception of information we so often see in standard classrooms, replacing it with active, genuine inquiry. The whole goal here is to make sure your child isn't just sitting there absorbing facts, but actually asking questions and doing the work. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover moving beyond the industrial classroom, the real-world learning cycle, the 7 structural pillars, AI as the organization brain, and finally, 3 pathways to adoption. Let's kick things off with Section 1, Beyond the Industrial Classroom. As a parent, you have probably felt the structural limitations of the schools we all grew up with. The industrial model has some pretty glaring structural failures. For one, conventional schools have virtually no institutional memory. When a fantastic teacher retires, all their specialized knowledge walks right out the door with them. The system relies heavily on passive reception from students, and it judges success on a single dimension, usually just standardized exam grades. But the PMC protocol flips the script completely by offering robust, specific remedies. It actually compounds knowledge over time. It enforces an intentionality requirement, meaning learners absolutely must actively engage. And instead of just test scores, it measures success through a whole life profile, which looks at a child's actual flourishing across multiple dimensions. Moving on to Section 2, the real-world learning cycle. We've talked a bit about the theory, but let's actually look at what this protocol looks like in action. Let's meet 14-year-old Ayana. So Ayana has been growing chili plants on her apartment balcony. They flower, but they never actually grow any fruit, and she really wants to know why. Now, this is not some textbook exercise, it's a real-world problem. So she runs through the specific 6-step cycle. First up, the intentionality phase, where she actively commits to investigating this question. Second is the quest seed, literally asking, why do my plants flower but not set fruit? Third is the boot camp. This is where her mentor and a personal AI guide her through the actual academic content she needs, things like plant biology, soil chemistry, data recording. Notice how the academic content isn't separated from her life. It's the direct fuel for solving her problem. Fourth, she goes on the quest. She's adjusting soil pH, hand-pollinating, failing, and iterating until she finally gets that fruit. Fifth, she presents her findings to her peers. And finally, step 6, she writes a reflection on what she learned about biology and, crucially, about her own patients. It is a brilliant, complete, real-world learning loop. Now for Section 3, the 7 structural pillars. To make a rich, hands-on experience like Ayana's chili plant quest possible every single day, you need very clear architectural rules. And it all starts with this golden ratio right here, 4 to 12. That is the number of learners paired with one single mentor. What's so incredible about this is that a solo mentor, whether that's a parent or a hired educator, starting with just 4 students in a living room or a local library, is already running a complete, fully functioning microscale cell. You really don't need a massive infrastructure or a huge building to begin. So, bringing all 7 of these architectural pillars together, we've got the cell structure of 4 to 12 learners, the intentionality phase, and the whole life success profile, which we've touched on. But rounding it out, we have the learning framework slot, the AI toolkit layer, data sovereignty, and the commons contribution. Every single one of these acts as a deliberate structural countermeasure to the flaws of traditional schooling. They are there to guarantee that learning remains intimate, deliberate, secure, and highly community-oriented. I want to pull out pillar number 4 specifically because it's fascinating, the learning framework slot. The protocol requires that every cell has an explicit vocabulary to help kids distinguish between just sort of drifting unconsciously through life and living intentionally. But the true beauty of this standard is that it's completely worldview neutral. The framework is literally just a slot. You, as the parents and the community, are the ones who fill it. A secular microschool might use cognitive science terms like System 1 versus System 2 thinking. A Muslim family might use terms like ghafla and taqwa, or a Buddhist cell might use avidya and bodhicitta. The protocol just gives you the robust structure, but you apply your own deepest values to the system. Which brings us to Section 4, AI as the organization brain. We definitely need to talk about how artificial intelligence acts behind the scenes to support the mentor here. And let's de-jargonize this, because I know AI can sound a bit intimidating in an educational context. The AI in the Open PMC protocol is absolutely not there to replace the human mentor or the teacher. No way. Remember how in conventional schools, institutional knowledge walks out the door when a teacher leaves? Well, in a PMC cell, one of the AI's functions is to act as an organization brain. It privately reads the student's learning documents and aggregates pattern-level insights for the mentor about what teaching approaches are actually working for those specific kids. That means the institutional memory of how your unique child learns best is never lost. It simply compounds across the years. And that naturally builds right into our next crucial point: data sovereignty. Because as a parent, your immediate question is likely going to be about privacy, right? Well, the protocol explicitly mandates that the cell, meaning you and your learning community, owns the canonical data, not the AI platform. Academic progress and quest journals are saved directly to cell-owned documents. The AI is simply an interface that reads them to help the mentor. And this is so important. A learner's personal life reflections are entirely private. They are never aggregated into this organization brain. Your data 100% belongs to you. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, 3 pathways to adoption. Let's turn all this theory into practical, actionable next steps for your family. The crucial point here is that this isn't some rigid corporate franchise. It's a highly flexible ecosystem that features 3 tiers of adoption. Tier 1 is for independent operators. You use the free open-source protocol, but you use entirely your own vocabulary and resources. You're completely independent. Tier 2 is for communities that want a bit of a head start. You can use the free open-source educational resources provided by the reference implementation, which is called Pick-a-Nakri, to help shape your cell. And then Tier 3 is for those who want a fully affiliated center, operating under formal brand and quality standards. This tiered system exists so parents and communities can easily decide their own route, whether you want a totally independent setup right in your living room or you want to join a structured affiliated center. So, we've covered how the Open PMC protocol dismantles that old industrial classroom model and replaces it with active, mentor-guided, AI-supported learning that completely respects your family's values and your data. The structure is open, it's free, and it is ready to be used today. So, I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. If true learning really does begin with a question, what question will your child's cell start with? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, here's to taking that very first step toward a completely new way of learning.